Satanic Inversion of is the debut full-length album from Avmakt. This is a band that formed not too long ago between members of Black Magic, a Norwegian heavy metal band that have gone a little bit more 70s in more recent years. And you might know them better from extreme thrash metal and death metal bands in the past, where Christian Valago is not only a known artist, but also a big functional member of Obliteration and Dode Squad. And Christopher Brothen is best known for Flight, an incredible band, and as well as Condor. So there's a kind of an interesting connection between all the three people who formed the band back in the day, and they all have some death metal in their work. They all have some thrash metal in there, but also some interest in psychedelic rock, whether it's Spectral Haze or Flight or Purple Hill Witch. There's some doom and whatnot. So there's the idea that these people kind of get heavy metal in general. They get what is most interesting about death metal and thrash metal and all that. But we don't have a big black metal record out of these folks. So when they got together and decided to make black metal, I don't really know that I was expecting anything in particular from it. And I certainly didn't expect their first demo to sound like early Dark Throne. I think that's a very familiar place that a lot of people try to replicate. It's a sound and a style that is just if the attitude is wrong, if the riffs suck, it's just not going to work. Early Dark Throne is really hard to touch, as simple as it was. And I think it's because you need that foundation of where they were coming from at the time in terms of incorporating a lot of what interested them about Celtic Frost and Bathory and whatnot. So I think this band actually kind of gets it right. We'll listen to a clip here and then I'll get into what this record is. It's kind of all about beyond that thought. So being influenced by early Dark Throne is not a unique thing at all. People have been doing it since that first record came out, their second record came out. And I think if you know black metal well enough, you're going to realize there are records like Kronet Till Kong, which took it in a very different tonal direction. And there's records like Circle of the Seven Infernal Pacts that took it into a more extreme, hyped up version that was a little bit more straightforward and right to the point. And so a record that's influenced by Dark Throne could sound like Darkwater Stir, or it can sound like 666 from Catharsis. And I think this leans a little bit more towards the Catharsis kind of aggression, but there are also points where they slow down and lean into a groove once in a while, which is more distinctly an early Dark Throne kind of sound. You'll realize I'm not really going to escape the comparison to Dark Throne, so we've gotten that out of the way. And so what were the actual aspects that were so closely related that I would come up with that? Certainly the riffs and the sound, the actual guitar sound is part of it, but these are longer form pieces that stretch out into a variety of kind of ranting grooves and riffs, which are not so much lo-fi as they are bristling in the way that they're presented. I think what I like about this record is that, yes, it sounds like a classic 1993 black metal record in a very clear way, but it sounds like one that is not feigning naivety. It's not being raw in a stupid way. It's being raw in an interesting way. And the fact that they presented it with a pretty solid production value actually adds to the way that it plays out, and it makes it much more listenable than it would if they just didn't care at all. And I think that's kind of what's interesting about this record. You can tell they're really intensely attuned to what they're doing. You can feel a bit of passion in the way that they put together these songs. It's the difference between caring about where a song goes and just doing it. And I think that's something that is hard to sense for a lot of metal, but in this sense, I think this record kind of cares what it sounds like and where it goes, and there's a bit of conviction in it, even if it is an easily identifiable sound. I think the riffs are just kind of cool. There are some doom metal riffs in here. There's some bigger, faster thrashing parts. Most of it is pretty solidly set in the way that it develops its black metal grooves, and that is kind of the main thing to pay attention to here. But, a cool guitar sound and a strong vocalist go a long way for this type of music. And they're playing a style which is very much classic and well known, so that you can't really go wrong when you've gotten it so right. So the thing that I would say in terms of actual criticism is that the vocal personae could be much bigger. That black metal needs a big vocal personae. It needs a big personality up front. It needs someone who is getting something out in a way that is much bigger than this. But for now, it's a functional performance for a debut, and it really sells what this band is all about up front otherwise. So, I'd like to hear more bass guitar. That's just something I always tack on there because it's important to me. But I think that in a way, this is a conservative beginning that has it has the potential to go over the top in the future. And I think that they'll get there pretty quickly if they go on with it. High recommendation for me. It's right on the cusp of just a moderate recommendation. I think it'll be old hat for some people who've heard it all, and I think it'll be something kind of incredible for folks who just want this sound. So I just want this sound. I think it's a great record to sit with and listen to. I don't think it's all that memorable, but I think it will be a crowd pleaser for people who are in the know and interested in this kind of thing. So for the general public, cool record. Check it out for yourself when it releases on August 30th, and read my review for more of my thoughts on what this thing is.